Daniel found himself a young man in this situation and faithful, never understanding what he's been through. So as an old man in the 15th year of Ahasuerus, King Artaxerxes, who was the Darius, in the 15th year of Darius, the son of Ahasuerus. Ahasuerus was the king that Esther married to. And he gave a command. Now, he said everybody could protect themselves. And he put this seal on it. You know the story of Esther. Esther came and pleaded for the people. And then the king gave a command. And he put his seal. And he said, Israel can protect themselves. Can you imagine what happened there? After all these years in captivity, they could revenge themselves. They slaughtered the Babylonians with the king's seal. These are all pictures of what's coming, of what is going to be. But now Daniel is in the middle of it. He says there, in the 15th year of Darius, the son of Ahasuerus, Daniel, he started reading the book of Jeremiah. In Jeremiah 25, he clearly says that Israel will be taken to Babylon for 70 years. I think Daniel must have taken that scroll and said, wait, I have to sit down. Is this why I'm here? And what he did is he started repenting. He repented for everybody. Because this man was just a man with a heart. He wouldn't compromise. And what happened? The next minute, the angel started appearing to him. And from Daniel 7 to Daniel 12 was visions, visions, visions. And God gave him 70 weeks of 7 vision unto Messiah. And listen, the last prophet was Malachi. And there was 400 years of silence. But all that silent history in the world, God gave it to Daniel, and he prophesied it. He opened it. He like saw it, and he wrote it down, and he wrote it down. He was caught up, and he was like, the angel said, Daniel, I've come so that you can understand. And then something terrible happens, and I got to take you there. It's in Daniel 9, because now Daniel saw all these things, and it like really scared the wits out of Daniel. He was like, oh my word. Now look at this, Daniel 12, the last chapter of Daniel. Daniel is awesome. The first chapter, 6 chapters is history. The last 6 chapters is all visions of Daniel. And he literally saw the detail of the history of the kingdoms of the world unto Rome. And in the time of Rome, that is when Jesus was born, he was crucified, he raised from the dead, and the old was removed. So this is why Jesus on the cross, he said, it's finished. But in Revelation 21, he says, it's done. It's over now. So he came as the Son of Man to finish the work there. Now, Daniel saw everything up till that point, and he's like, 70 weeks of 7 unto Messiah, and all the hell that broke loose over the people, his people. He says 70 weeks of 7 is upon your people and the city unto Messiah. And we read it in Revelation as seals, trumpets, and vials. I just want to say, those things are open. We need to understand it. And it's not that it's like now open. It's been open for 2,000 years. I'm going to explain this to you. In Daniel 12, Daniel, I'm going to read from verse 1. And at the time of the end, Michael shall stand up, the great prince that standeth for the children of the people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was, since there was a nation, even to the same time. And at the time of the people shall be delivered, and everyone shall be found written in a book. Okay, we know now the books are opened. But in Revelation 12, we read about Michael again. He says, there's a great wonder in heaven, the woman. There's another wonder in heaven, the great red dragon, who is no one else but Satan, the serpent himself, is the great red dragon. He says, but now Michael and his angels fought, and the dragon was cast out. Jesus says in John 12, the accuser of the brethren is now cast out of heaven. Then he said, I saw him fall out lightning from heaven, but he still had a place of accusation. He still always poked his finger in. That's why he had a tree in the garden. He could still enter, but his place was not there. Now, Jesus dealt with him, and he's not found in heaven anymore. The accuser of the brethren is cast down. But he says, woe unto the earth, because this thing is now cast unto the earth. And he is walking like a roaring lion, Peter says, because Revelation tells us he has a short time. Guys, if you don't understand times, you're going to put this to the end, and it's not to the end. Because Revelation 20 says, death and hell is already in the lake of fire. Those that didn't receive, the judgment has already taken place. Now he says, at the end, Michael will fight. Now he talks here and he says it's a time of trouble. Other translation says it's the time of tribulation that has never been and never will be. Now I know that there has been terrible wars, terrible famines, terrible floods. Come on. When Jesus said the rainbow, he said, never again will I flood the earth with water. We have had floods. We've had lots of floods. There are lots of floods everywhere, and there's a lot of people dying in floods. But never has the whole earth been destroyed with water. So you must understand the times and the seasons and the spirit language here. He says there will never be such a time again. So I don't care how bad the wars are. It's not the end of the world, because that was the worst. That was the time of tribulation. He says, and many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life and some to everlasting life and some to shame and everlasting contempt. Now this happened when Jesus died and rose. The graves opened, and they only ascended when he ascended, after he ascended. And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament. They that be wise. So there were fools too. I think Jesus told us about the 5 wise virgins and the 5 foolish. And they that turn many to righteousness as the stars, and they will be forever and ever. Now he comes. Now you must remember, this is Daniel 12. Daniel have just seen the whole line of history following from Babylon right unto Christ. From when Ahasuerus gave them the command, 457 BC, unto Christ, who was baptized 27. And if you work it out, you will see it's the exact times, because he says it is now in 7 weeks and 62 weeks. That gives you 69 weeks. That's 483 years. So if you take it from 457 up till there, and you add the going over the millennium, you have to add 1, you get to the year 27 AD. And the year 27 AD is described in Luke 3. The Bible is just awesome. He says in Luke 3, the 15th year of Tiberius Caesar, who was the 3rd king of the 10 horns, He says Tiberius was Caesar, Philip was tetrarch, Herod was a king, Lysanias and Pilate was a tetrarch. And then was Annas and Caiaphas. And those were the 7 heads or rulers or mountains on which the whore was sitting. So you cannot take these things and apply it to nowadays history. It was all in the time of Rome. But now he says, now Daniel was in a state. He was in a state. I think it started when he realized, oh my gosh, 70 years. When he finally opened the book of Jeremiah. Now remember, it was not so easy as it is now. I think he was just like, huh? Now he says, the angel says to him, Daniel, don't worry. You shut up the words and seal the book. It's a book that's sealed. What is this book sealed? Unto Messiah. The whole Israel carried the pattern of the book. The system was the pattern of the Christ. And now there's no more voices. The law was a mess. The prophets were dead. And he says, seal up the book. And on the right hand of him that sit on the throne, Revelation 5, is a book sealed with 7 seals. Jesus Christ, the river. He's the tree of life. He is the book. The book is written within and on the back. The front side is not written. And he says, seal the book. Even to the time of the end. When is the end? He's talking here about the end of the time of this vision. So when it's going to be opened. Now he comes and he says in Hebrews 9 verse 26 that Jesus Christ came at the end of the world to bring the final sacrifice once and for all. But what did Israel do? They went on. So they did not receive the sacrifice. They turned the sacrifice in, they worshiped the system instead of the God. They turned the truth of God into a lie. They opened the doors to everything and they became an abomination to God. So they did not receive that sacrifice. So they were the ones that cried for his blood to come on them and their children. So they were the wicked generation. You've just got to go read what Jesus calls them. He says the abominable generation, the wicked generation, the unfaithful generation, the unbelieving generation. That was that generation. A generation is 40 years. But he says, seal the book until the time of the end. For many shall run to and fro, and the knowledge shall increase. As time goes, revelation grows. Then I, Daniel, looked, and behold, there stood another 2. The one on this side of the bank of the river, and the other one on the other side of the river. And one said to the other man clothed, which was upon the waters of the river, how long shall it be to the end of these wonders? What wonders? These things that are now sealed. And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters and the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand unto the heaven, and swear by him that liveth forever. And it shall be for a time and a times and a half. And when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished. Now please, Jesus Christ, Daniel 9, was sacrificed in the final week of Daniel's prophecy. And it was 3.5 years before the time he was baptized. 3.5 years after it, Stephen was stoned and the persecution started. And also the persecution of Rome started. Because from Christ up to Stephen, the Jews persecuted the Christians. But it got out of hand with Paul. And then Rome grabbed in. And they destroyed Israel. Rome, it's got nothing to do with us. Revelation 7 and 8 describes the Roman armies. It's got nothing to do with us. And it is like the story of Haman and Mordecai. Haman made the gallows for Mordecai, but he hung on the same gallows that he made for someone else. And this is Rome, Israel allied with Rome to take out the Messiah. Now Rome took out Israel. This is the same sort of story. And at the end, the final taking away of the daily sacrifice also has a last week. Also 3.5 years, 3.5 years. And you pick this up from Daniel 8, 9, and 12, all these numbers, because it started, the revolt started in 66 AD, 70 AD, Jerusalem was burned down, 73 AD, Masada was sacked, and everybody died. It was the end of the final daily sacrifice. It was the final end of it. So this is what he's talking about. And I heard, and I understood not. Then said I, "Oh my Lord, what shall the end of these things be?" Can you see Daniel? I think he was in a state. And he said to me, "Go your way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed till the time of the end." And I love the last verse. He says to Daniel, Daniel, he says, "Go your way till the end be. But you will rest and you will stand in your allotted place at the end." So Daniel just stepped into the cloud of witnesses. He will stand in his allotted place at the end. Now, this seal is opened in Revelation 5. Daniel sealed it. He said all these things he saw, he sealed it. So from Babylon up to, now Babylon was 457 years from the going forth of the command. When Daniel saw this, it was 400 years of silence. And then it was 30 years until Jesus. And then they didn't receive Jesus. They crucified him. Then it was that generation. So it is right at the end. It's 70 AD.